Hey everybody, welcome back. Devin, the OG, the original Grognard, sitting down here today, and I wanted to do a little face-to-face with everybody. I don't do that very often, but I wanted to sit down and kind of go over the newest unboxing that I'm going to be stepping into. And what are we getting into? That's right, World at War '85: Storming the Gap. I received quite surprisingly and most appreciatively prototype copy from David over at Lock and Load Publishing. Wanted me to take a look at it, give my thoughts, opinions, yada yada yada, the whole 9 yards. Can't really say it's too much playtesting at this point because I mean the game ships in July, so I think we're pretty much beyond the playtesting stage. That doesn't mean I'm not going to play it and give feedback. Of course I am. But before I actually got into the box and showing all what was in it, I wanted to kind of give my I guess you call it my bona fide when it comes to the World of War series. And anybody who's followed the channel for a while knows that I like the World of War series. I did a video, 2 3 months ago, from one of the scenarios from Death of the First Panzer. It World at War sneaks into my top five depending on my mood, my emotions, my feelings, how much calories I had to eat that day, the stars in the sky, and the phase of the moon. I can safely say that World at War sits securely at my number six favorite games of all time, and for someone who's been gaming for almost 40 years, that's actually pretty good. I have a wealth and depth to my gaming history, and so for a game to get in the top 10, it's got to be pretty damn good. Um, Completely forgot what I was going to say. I've been rehearsing this for like 3 days. Uh, why do I like World at War? The biggest reason for me, and these are in no particular order, so I'm just going to go off of how it strikes me. Uh, the price point was really good for the time when it came out. I think it was $40 for Eisenbach Gap, and then the Death of the First Panzer module was like $20, and they continued to support the system, which was another thing that I really liked. I mean, they had a lot of expansions that they came out with. Forgotten Stories, Blood and Bridges, the U.S. expansion, the compendiums. I mean, it was a system that was supported, and it was for a time period that I really enjoy. I enjoy Cold War actions. I enjoy NATO versus Warsaw Pact, ravaging and slashing at each other. When I was in the military, I'm a Cold War veteran. I was trained to fight the Soviets. That's what World at War pretty much covers. Now, granted, I was the naval side of things, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the Cold War is real to me because I was there. Um, so I enjoy that, and it's at a scale I really enjoy. I like the tactical level. I like squad. I like platoon level. You start getting into like company and battalion, you get to the strategic, and I just start to lose interest. I find that the strategic, the squad, and the platoon level is more narrative in its approach to gameplay, and I enjoy narration, even if it's just up here in my mind. The narrative effects that a game gets. Nobody's really going to remember or care that Third Company, Seventh Battalion crossed the river and pushed out a machine gun company out of a village over over there, what have you. But at the squad and platoon level, people do remember where Lieutenant Oppenheim would be marching across a field with a platoon of soldiers, get hit with an artillery strike, all the platoons were wiped out, he'd survive, break, run away, hook up with another squad, start moving back across the field, get hit with a sniper, the sniper wipes out the squad, he's the only survivor, he goes on, eventually moves on, hooks up with a heavy machine gun team, and manages to eliminate all the German squads in a fortified building in one turn. That actually happened in a game of Advanced Squad Leader I was playing. Unfortunately, I was on the receiving end of that. But so I enjoyed the narrative experience of the squad and platoon level. And it's an easy system. Let's not parse words about it. I mean, it's 10, 12, 14 pages. It's an easy system. The older I get, the more I'm finding I just want to play a game quick. When I was younger, yeah, sure. Dragnak Osten from, Europa Universalis or Europa. The entire Red Barricades campaign for ASL. Yeah, no, I can't do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. I like smaller footprint games now. I like games that I can play in a couple 3 hours, and I don't want to think too hard. I played too much ASL over the years. I'm tired of trying to give birth to an account every time I play. So World at War hit a lot of the things that I look for in games: tactical system, Cold War system, small footprint. I mean, honestly, you take a look at the boards. The boards are not even standard sized, 32 by 21. They're like 19 by 12. I mean, tiny, tiny maps. And the counter count, for a lot of the scenarios, you're looking at under 20 counters per side. Again, something I can get knocked out in a couple hours. I can just throw dice with myself or throw dice with a buddy and giggle. It's not heavy. What else did I? What else? Oh, and the whole chit pull for formations. Primarily a solo player, it was great to have these formation chit pulls. I didn't have to worry about fully integrating myself on one side or the other because I didn't know how the turn order was going to come out because it was going to be different every time with the chit pulls. And that really makes it real solo friendly because, yeah, all right, you got an overall idea of what you want your battle plan to be. But, as the chip pulls come out, that's going to determine how things are going to go down. You're going to have to react to that. So you're not playing, well, you are playing both sides, but you're not really playing both sides at the same time. You're playing each formation as it comes up, and you have to analyze the tactical situation continually when the new formation is pulled up. And that's great for a solo player. So those are some of the things that I really liked about it. Was it the perfect system? No, there were a lot of issues with World of War 85. Fortunately, not enough to outweigh my enjoyment of it, but you gotta be honest. The rules as written, not the best. As a buddy of mine once said, it's Mark Walker does a very good job at narrative rules writing and not formulaic rules writing, which means it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's kind of everything all blended together in a paragraph, which is fine for a lower impact war game where you don't have a lot of really odd conditional situations that show up. However, when those odd conditional situations do show up, the rules are usually, you can't really get a good answer on how to resolve it. And one of the things that would always frustrate me so much is like, all right, light armor, soft vehicle, what's the difference and how does high explosive interact with, okay, is this unit, it's got a 6 save, does that make it a light vehicle or a soft vehicle, and how does high explosive artillery strike? It was just 90% of the time narrative rules writing is going to be fine. It's that last 10% of the time that's really a pain in the butt. But again, it's just something we rolled with. Another thing is, the good thing about it is that there was a lot of expansions to it. There was a lot. I mean, they support, Lock and Load supported the game. There's no doubt about that. The problem is that there was no consistency between a lot of the games and the modules. You had the compendiums that were coming out. You had the box sets that were being released. You had the modules. You had the World of War magazine and the stuff that was in the Lock and Load magazine. And the same unit would have different stats in different games. An M1 in Eisenbach Gap may have different stats that were in Untold Stories and may have different stats that were in the U.S. expansion or what have you. And some of the units were just silly, stupid. The Swedish armored personnel carrier that had the best melee attack in the game. I think it was like 3 dice at 4 or something stupid like that. It was really, really, the Swedish armored personnel carrier is the best melee unit in the so anyways, there were a lot of issues, and a lot of times the rules would be changing. It's like, all right, in this compendium we know the rules say this, but it's actually, no, you want, we're changing the rules for this. So as more and more of the expansions came out, the divergence from the original rules got wider and wider, and it got really hard to keep track of what was official rules and what wasn't official rules, what was scenario rules, what were module rules, what yada 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 yada. It was a pain in the butt. It just absolutely was. So there are other negatives about it, but I don't want to focus too much on it. I was really excited when I heard that Lock and Load was re-releasing the Second World War. Oh, the other thing that was kind of a negative about it, and I will point this out. Kind of a negative for, well, I'll let you maybe be the judge of it. It wasn't historically, there were no historical areas. I mean, I think Blood and Bridges had parts of Paris in it, but it's like, it's the maps were not, all right, so Eisenbach Gap, there's no such place as Eisenbach Gap as far as I know. It's supposed to be Fulda Gap. I get what they were going for, but no, they just made up their own stuff. Is that big of a deal? Nah, the old Panzerleader, Panzer Blitz rule sets, they didn't have, real either. It was all geomorphic, and it was indicative of the area that were being fought. And so, it wasn't that big of a deal. But, that little grognard it's not so little grognard, but that grognard part of me, kind of, all right, I can live with it because I like the system, but I kind of wish it was a little bit more factual based. And then, went off into the werewolves and vampires thing, which never really made an appearance in the board game, which is good because I don't think I could have tolerated or handled that too much. But anyways, so I was really excited when I heard that they were re-releasing and updating World of War. Lock and Load was doing this, and that they were doing it more historically accurate with actual historical locations. The Fulda Gap was going to be Fulda Gap, yada yada yada. And I was really excited that they were going to be releasing so many expansion. They call them modules, but I mean, a module indicates an add-on, and these are really, each game is its own full contained set. So yeah, I guess you can call them module, full games, whatever, what have you. However, when I saw the price point for it, and this was before the Kickstarter was released, I about had heart failure. Because like now it's $100. Ooh, that's a little bit beyond my price range. Maybe I can save up my pennies, nickels, and dimes. And Kickstarter is not an option for me. I don't have a credit card. I haven't owned a credit card since 2001. So Kickstarters really isn't an option for me. It's like, well, all right, I'll save my pennies, nickels, and dimes, and I'll pick it up later. And I was really impressed with how the Kickstarter eventually ended up. I mean, they fully funded the entire the base Kickstarter in like 24 hours, and met this huge amount of stretch goals, and the stretch goals are massive. I mean, if you haven't taken a look, go to the Kickstarter page for World at War and take a look at all the stretch goals. I mean, if you got into it and are getting all the stretch goals, you're getting, oh geez, 3 or 4 times the game that the base box set is. It's really, 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 really good deal. If you can still try to get your hands on the Kickstarter set, because there's a lot of high quality stuff and really cool stuff that's in there. But so yeah, I just wanted to go over that. I just kind of want to give my bona fide on my experiences so far with the World of War, and why I like it, why I enjoy it, and give that as kind of a precursor to cracking open the box. So I've rambled on about 15 minutes. I think I've rambled on long enough. Like, God, Devin, shut the hell up. Just get to the unboxing. We want to see what's in it. All right, we're going. All right, so let's start taking a look at what's in the box. And I will, like I said, I do need to preface that this is a prototype / playtest version. The contents in here may not be exactly what the retail and Kickstarter versions We still got a couple months. There still could be some changes. I think like 80 to 90% of the game is set. So if there is differences, don't be surprised. It's just the nature of the beast. But anyways, and as our favorite friend, Dan the Man, El Duce himself from No Enemies Here would say, well, it comes with a box and a lid. I like boxes and lids. I like boxes and lids for all my games. I've got many games that have come in Ziploc. I've even had games that have come in manila envelopes. I've even printed and played games that had no boxes at all. But I like boxes and I like lids. This is a big-ass box. This is your typical, I guess this is kind of the typical lock and load box now. It's 3 inches deep, and honestly, the box could afford to be bigger, especially with all the Kickstarter stuff. If you got all the full Kickstarter, you're going to need a bigger box. So, yeah, it's your standard, typical lock and load box. And honestly, even just the prototype kit is overflowing with stuff. Take a look first. The rule book. World at War 85 Core Rule Set version 2.0. Notice this? It's spiral bound. I love spiral bound. I like anything, even ring bound. Anything that lets me have the book laid out flat to the side, right to the page where I need it. That's a great thing. All right. I hate having books that I have to pick up and flip to the pages. It should become an industry standard. It really should. I mean, just ring. But I mean, there's a lot of times I've had other rule books that I've myself have gone up to my local Staples store and ring bound just because I need it. It's easier for me to have it laid out flat like this, right where I need it, right where the pages are. So really good idea that the thing is ring bound. Now, this is a massive rule book. There's no getting around it. It's like 140 pages long. Yeah, there's 140 pages right there. And then you got a couple pages of advertisements. Don't get too overwhelmed with the size of the rule book. Granted, the original rule book was about 12, 14 pages long. However, it was also in like 6-point font. This is glorious 12-point font. I cannot express. I'm an old man. My eyesight is crap. So this really big font, I appreciate the much bigger font. And even though it's 140 pages long, let's take a look at some of the pages. I mean, beautiful table of contents. And then you have, counter reference. And look at how big. There's my thumb for scale. How big this is. And the big, nice font. So you can see everything. And so you got a lot of pages that'll got just, a lot of the different counters showing them off. And then, look at how there's not a lot of information for per page. It's because the font size is so big, and you got to love that. And as you go through it, I mean, sometimes you'll have pages that have got, lots of diagrams on it. Not so much gameplay diagrams, although there is that, but a lot of exactly what the counters are and what they do and the meaning. I mean, you don't even really get into the meat of the rules. I mean, this is just describing, what the different counter values are. There's a lot of, this is Third World War. I mean, it's at the tactical level. You can go full on ultra rivet counting detail, like say, I don't know, the miniatures game Fistful of Toes. And you kind of need to if you want to have a lot of realism. There's a lot of stuff going on the battlefield in Third World War that you don't have in previous wars, even like Vietnam or Korea, World War II. You didn't have air-to-air missiles. You didn't have rocket-guided artillery. You didn't have anti-tank guided missiles. I mean, back in the earlier wars, you had a gun, the big gun. Now you've got, depleted uranium rounds, composite armor, reflective armor. There's a lot of stuff going on at the tactical and platoon level that needs, if you want it to be realistic, you need to have some way of modeling it. So, that's what a lot of this, you'll see. I mean, You know, we've got several pages of these counters and what the different effects are. And then you've got special ability, triangle chart. So, that is one slight problem with ring bound. Making sure you get everything all. The ring itself doesn't interfere with the turning of pages. So, and then, you know, it goes into the smoke markers. So there's a lot of pages in here, and there's a lot of information, but you're not overwhelmed on each page with what's in it. So it's easy to consume because you're not going through 10,000 words per page and trying to absorb it. So, anyways, I really like how this new rule book is laid out. Oh, stop doing that. So, anyways, that's the rule book, and it has, you know, like Lock and Load has done with all their games, really good index. I mean, how many? Let's see. Yeah, 25 pages, 20 pages, 15 pages index. And then there is a starter kit. I think if you go to Lock and Load, there is a bit of a small starter kit that you can download that's got some basic rules and some basic scenarios that you can download yourself just so you can test out the game. And then it's got, you know, the pictures of the maps, so on and so forth. So really big, massive rule book. A lot of information here, but in my opinion, real easy to consume. So that's the rule book. That's not the only book that's in here. Scenario book. Module rules and scenarios, and this is ring bound as well. And this is just as big too. This is 138 pages. So this has got just scenarios galore. There is a campaign. There's 3 different campaign systems with different scenarios that you can play out for it. And it's like the original Eisenbach Gap had, what, like 8 scenarios? This has got like 3 times as much. So, but this has also got, you know, the specific module rules, because, you know, you may have differences in what's going on with a European battlefield, and rather say when they do, you know, the Israeli, Egyptian, Jordanian expansion that they're going to be doing somewhere down the line, or, you know, hopefully the North Korea, South Korea expansion is going to have some moderately different rules per module, and that's going to be in this book here, plus all the scenarios. And some of the scenarios are from the original Eisenbach Gap. I think there's a couple in here from Death of the First Panzer. And the one thing I love about it is it gives the actual visual layout of it. And I'm an old school gamer, Avalon Hill. I'm used to the scenario cards where you have the scenario card and you have the actual representation of the counters on the card. It makes it real easy at a glance to see how big a scenario is and what's on each side. The first rule book, it was all written out. It's like you really got to read into it. It's just a pain in the butt. I prefer this so I can know at a glance exactly what's going on in a scenario. So this is a great thing. They didn't have to do this. I mean, they could have made this. This book could have been a quarter of the size if they would not have bothered to print out, you know, by iconography, everything that's in the scenario. And there's a lot of scenarios. there's a lot of scenarios in here. And some of the scenario links are a few pages long. It's like this one starts on page 88 for scenario 17. You got some West German or Warsaw Pact, so you got some East German units here. Then more East German, Soviet support. And then you get into the U.S. order of battle right here. So, you know, one scenario, and then you get into scenario essentials, victory conditions. I mean, you're looking at 88 to 95, 7 pages for one scenario. You know, that's pretty beefy. That's even bigger than a lot of pages that are given to like squad leader scenarios. But everything's in this beautifully huge font. You can look at a glance. You can see exactly what counters you need. All right, you got 2 infantry teams. You need 2 M113s, a single Abrams, single 105. It's all laid out for you in glorious, beautiful color. Let's see. I think there's 20 scenarios. Yeah, 20 scenarios. And then it gives different units. It gives you a breakdown of the units. Self-propelled artillery, mortars, what a BMP is. Not everybody knows what a lot of this equipment. A lot of people do, but not everybody does. So that's a nice little touch that was given. And there's the West German forces, and then there's the history leading up to the origins of the Third World War. So yeah, it's a lot of good stuff in here. Again, love that it's ring bound. So you can lay it off to the side. You don't have to worry about trying to find your page again. All right, let's start taking a look at some of the components in here. Now, I don't have much of the Kickstarter stuff in here. In fact, I think there's only one of the stretch goals that was provided with me, and it's these unit data cards. So let's take a look at these units. These are, as the website says, these are tarot sized. These are, hand for scale. I do not have small hands. These are big hands. These are huge friggin' cards. And there's a card for every single counter in the game. So, and these are printed much bigger than the counters. So if you want to, you can take these cards, set them up at the beginning, set them off to the side, so you don't have to try to squint your eyes looking at what the stats on the counters are. You've got these cards right next. There's my thumb. That's huge. You can read the fonts on them. Now, what are these specifically for? These data cards are mostly for, they're good data cards in general. They give the unit types, any special functions, and the rules associated with it, which I think is just absolutely great. But it gives you notice, range, hex, and then if you want to play with miniatures, depending on your scale, 6mm, 15mm, 28mm, and then the cost for the unit for build your own forces. So if you want to play this in 6mm, and I'm fairly certain that there are rules, a subsection of rules in the rulebook. Don't quote me on that. I haven't gone through the rulebook yet. But if you're playing with 6mm miniatures, the high explosive range is 2 inches and 1 inch. At 15mm, it's 4 inches, 2.5. So you have the different, and of course move. 5-inch movement at 6mm, 13, yada, yada, yada. So these data cards, and like I said, this is for every unit counter, different counter in the game, that you can set these aside so you can see at a glance what the stats are, what type it is, any type of special functions it has, or if you're playing with miniatures, it's also got all the movement scales and range scales right on the cards. Really, really cool addition. I don't do much in the way of miniature gaming anymore. Stopped miniature gaming about 5-6 years ago. Big fat fingers, really bad eyesight makes for poor attempts at painting. And I used to be a pretty good painter. Anyways, there's that. And like I said, I think that's the only Kickstarter stretch goal I have. All right, now, kind of the core of the game. We have formation cards. Now, these used to be chits in the original system. But by scenario, you've now got the formation cards. And now you have a deck of cards that you pull out for the different formations in the scenario. And you use this to draw. You got the backing on it. So you can draw your formation. So okay, so it's like, all right, which formation goes? You draw. Draw the next formation, and all the formations are in here. Some of them, if you notice with the Soviets, have got 2 formation cards. Most of the Soviet formations only have 1 activation card. And you notice they're all most of them are color-coded. So these will match with the counters in the game. So you can, you pull this activation marker, the 268th Motorized Rifle Regiment. It's yellow striped units on the board. So you can look, and at a glance, you can tell where are all the yellow striped units. Those are the units that belong to 268th. Those are the units that are activating right now. And I just think that is so cool. Now, there's only a few colors because, you can't have... It's hard to differentiate more than 8 colors at any one time. So, you'll see it's like, for example, the 90th SAAB uses green backing. Now the 908th SAAB uses green backing as well. 901st SAAB uses green backing as well. Okay, so I guess maybe there isn't multiples. I was just reading. But you won't be using the 324th Motorized Rifle Regiment and the 247th in the same game because they're using the same colors. At least as far as I know, you don't. But you do have multiple different colors, so you can identify the formations real easy. And then, of course, you got the designation formation, so that if, by scenario special rule, it's like, all right, put the designated formation, and it can act as an extra 268th Motorized Rifle Regiment activation card or what have you. So those are the Soviets, and it's a lot of them. And these are big cards. These are slightly bigger than a poker deck, I would say. So those are the Soviet activation cards. And okay, take a look at the West Germans. A lot of West German formations too. I mean, probably just as many. But then again, I think with them, they had... No, I think... Not really sure. Maybe there's only one activation card for the Germans. Yeah, looks like that's possible. But again, you got a lot of German formations. I should probably point out morale, range at full strength, range at reduced step for the headquarters. So I'm not really going to get too much into the rules. We're just kind of looking at what's in the box. So a bunch of West German stuff. Now I believe the Kickstarter stretch goals also provide some Czech units. So if you've got the Czech, or if you've got that level of Kickstarter, and like I said, if I remember that correctly, then you'll also be getting a bunch of Czech unit formation cards as well as the counters. And this was going to kind of surprise me. There was also East German. I wasn't expecting East German. There's a few East German units in here. And they got the designated formation. And if you'll notice, these aren't cut exactly perfect. I wasn't expecting them to be as a prototype. Your copy will be much more professionally done. So don't worry that you're seeing, some cutting errors. And of course, U.S. formation cards. I haven't gone through the rules too much, but I'm not seeing... Usually the U.S. got 2 activations per, but I'm not seeing... Maybe these are just mixed up and I haven't gone through them too much. But yeah, just all the U.S. formation cards. What other cards have we got in here? Bunch of other type of cards. What do we got here? Objective points. These are for build your own scenario, the battle builder. Objective point cards, different objectives that you can put down on the board. So I think the way these work is like, all right, objective B, and you put this underneath it, or, it's worth 4 points. So whoever holds objective B, claims 4 points. Warsaw Pact. But then there's also battlefield event frictions that go in with the formation cards, electronics warfare, and the end of operations. We all remember that from the first game, because I would tend to pull end of operations far too often, and the turns would always end before I'd ever really get to do anything. One of the frustrating things about the game, but also one of the things that made the game cool. All right, now, so you thought the data cards for each unit were really cool. You've also got 4 cards. Or, well, not 4 cards, 2 cards, double-sided. These are 11 by 17s at least, I think. Maybe not quite 11 by 17. But again, here we have basically the same stuff that was on the data cards that I showed earlier. These cards, only in a more concise form, still real easy to read the fonts on them, and it gives point cost if you're doing battles, what the unit is front and back, the unit name, description, and all the pertinent information about it.
and by rules. So it's a soft target, defensive type for according to 10.4, 10.7. Transport, doesn't carry passengers, direct fire, yada, yada, yada. All the good information you're going to need. And there's 2 of these cards, double-sided, for each nationality in here. So now granted, the East Germans don't have a lot, so their cards aren't as full out. Let's take a look at someone else. Here's the Soviet Union. And they are definitely more robustly filled out just because they've got a lot more units than the East Germans. And it just gives you all the pertinent information. These are nice little cards to hang off to the side of the board. Now, they could have made these much smaller, 8.5 by 11. I'm glad they made these bigger because, again, old man's eyesight, have trouble seeing things. These I can glance at across the table, and there's a good chance I'll be able to read them. So, good stuff with there. Again, these were things that they didn't need to include in the game. I'm glad they did. Yes, it increased the price point, but you know what? For everything that's in this box, it's worth it. It really is. I mean, they could have been justified going to $130, $140 easily for this box set. So you're getting a really good deal out of this game regardless. So there's the US stuff and then West German stuff. So all those for everybody. Maps. Maps. We love maps. These maps are a hell of a lot better than the original maps. I mean, they're roughly about the same size. I mean, the footprint is pretty much similar. Now, this one, again, I do want to point out, for some reason, this one is there was like 4 hexes of overlay. Now, I'm fairly certain, well, I can't even say that. I don't know how this is going to show up in the final version, but there is a few hexes of overlay in this one. And the cool thing is that they are also really kind of geomorphic, because if you'll notice, you know, the roads off the top match with the roads down below, and the road, so they're geomorphic. So all the maps can be put together in a variety of different setups, which gives it a little bit more flexibility than the original, because if you remember, the original Eisenbach Gap just had the one set map board. It wasn't geomorphic, it was just the one set map board. Death of the First Panzer had one set map board. It was all there was. You couldn't shift them around or change it up that much. But, you know, the graphics are a lot better, they're a lot crisper, they're a lot cleaner. I mean, you got fields, you've got the woods, you know, you've got your buildings right there and the lake. So, I mean, the artwork is definitely a step up from the older, the original version. So, let's go ahead. I think there's 4 maps in total. Yeah, 4 maps in total. And again, like this one, it just doesn't abate up. It is about 4 hexes of overlay. So, but you know, that's fairly cool. Or maybe there's only 3 maps. Maybe there's only 3 maps. Maybe there's supposed to be 4 maps. Again, prototype version. Don't get mad at me if the final is different. So anyways, yeah, there you go. Pretty cool maps. I should really check that. I thought there were 4 maps. How many maps is there? Oh, 4 maps. I'm missing a map. Oh, no. Oh, no. That's not good. Oh, well. And then unit aid cards. Lots of unit aid cards. At a glance, telling you what everything on the counters are. Because like I was saying, in Modern Warfare, there's a lot of stuff going on. And you got a lot of stuff on the counters. And it's really good that they give this so you can actually see what everything on the counters are, what they all mean, what the different colors mean, all that other good stuff. Again, and then of course, all the administrative markers. They didn't have to put that in. They could have made it a lot smaller. I'm glad they put it in. Terrain effects chart. It's always good to have a terrain effects chart. Nice big terrain effects chart. More charts. Oh my God, how many charts are there in this thing? More terrain effects chart. All the good stuff in there. Rules references included as well. What else have we got? What else have we got? We got more stuff. More stuff. Jeez, how much? Like I said, there's a lot of stuff in this box. All right, the battle generator for generating your own random battles. Really cool. Line of sight. Ease of use line of sight chart. Oh my God, line of sight, especially when it comes to hills, are the bane of my existence. So the simple fact that they have a dedicated chart outside the book that you can sit and have set to the side so you can refer to relatively easy without having to try to search through the rule book. Super. More charts. Direct fire modifiers. It's only one-sided. Weather change. Now I don't remember weather really being a thing in the. They may have come out in the later games. I only had Eisenbach Gap and Death of the First Panzer. But so weather change table, pretty cool. And then some really cool things off to the side. Formation deck. So instead, we'd have a cup that we draw formation chits from. Now that we've got those big cards, we got a formation deck, the discard, artillery tracks, which is great because I always had the hardest time trying to. So I had to print out a bunch of cards. So it's like, all right, I've got 2 HE strikes of 4/5. So I'd actually have 2 cards that I had set off to the side so I could remember. And then, of course, a complete formation inventory. Oh, there's everything's falling off. Turn record track, weather track, NATO and allies off. The footprint for this game, if you got all the charts out everywhere, is going to be a bit big. You don't need all this stuff. It's really cool to have it, though. Holding boxes, reinforcements, suppressed, casualties, all that good stuff. More charts. What do we got here? Battlefield Friction. This is for the random events. There's a new card. Well, it used to be chits. Now it's the formation cards that you can throw in for random events. If that card gets drawn, it's not required. I think there might be some scenarios that may require it, but it's mostly by both players' approval. So if you draw one of those cards and you roll a couple D6 and you have the random events, and then a whole bunch of dice rolling, disruption removals, direct fire, all the different dice rolls that you're going to make and how you do it. Just more quick reference charts. Missile ammo usage table, which is a good thing because that was an annoying pain in the butt. How your missile ammunition expired. And then just more descriptors on what the different counters mean. Again, all at a quick glance. Really good stuff. All right, so that's the boards, which I'm missing one of. All the charts and counters and tables. Now for the counters. First of all, again, thumb for scale. I don't have a banana. Really, really thick. Can't say, come on, focus. Whatever. Really thick counter sets and done like most L&L. Now these are laser cut for popping out. Oh, hang on. Yeah, I may have a little bit. Let's see if we can actually. I'm gonna have to be careful punching these out. Okay, so there we go, right like that. So really thick. Oh, come on, focus. There's your counter. Now, my OCD is going to have me going through and trimming them up a little bit, but that's okay. But the good thing is they're all pre-trimmed. They've got the round. I'm a corner clipper. I've been a corner clipper for about 5 years now. I like clipped corners. This saves me the trouble of having to clip them. Now, again, this is laser etched. These counters for the prototype are laser etched. The counters that are coming in the retail and Kickstarter are actual die cut, so you don't have to worry. Again, this was, again, prototype. You're not going to get the same effect with prototype as you are with the full retail version. But again, here we have these different color bands, so you can see at a glance, which formation gets activated. And there are 7 counter sheets. Yes, 7 counter sheets. You got administrative markers. Oh my God! Thank God we finally have. One of the things that I was always running out of is ops complete markers. Looks like we got plenty of ops complete markers. And if you'll notice, the administrative markers, the ops complete and the disrupted, are the same on both sides. So then the counters aren't pulling double duty. In the old game, it's like, all right, if it's double-sided, one side will be a disrupted, the other side will be ops complete. It's like, really? I was running out of counters continually. Hopefully this will be enough counters. So, administrative markers, minefields, burnt out, fire, rubble, cleared, improved positions, landed, nape of the earth, wrecks, and it's the same on both sides. So I think they did that with all of them. All of the, yes, they're all front and back are the same. So you don't have to go searching for counters anywhere. You don't have to be flipping counters over. All the counters are just right there. You don't have to flip them over to go searching for them. Thank God. And then just more counters. Missile markers, smoke, administrative markers. Starting to get into some unit markers. Let's take a look at some. Let's see if we can. So, yeah. ASU 85s. That's an Air Mobile SU 85. Leaders. Headquarters units. Yeah, let's compare this. Let's compare the counters. I broke out my old copy of World at War because I did want to compare real quick. Let's just let's grab a combat unit. Grab a combat unit out so we can compare it. All right, so let's actually, one counter I've already popped out. All right, so side by side compare. Oh my God, look at the difference in those counters. I mean, the new counters are what? 20% bigger, which means the fonts are 20. But look at the difference in. Oh, those are just pretty. And again, old man eyesight, big fonts, good. So, yeah, the counters are definitely a step up. And admittedly, I'll be honest, you're paying for it. I mean, that's the one thing why the price point on this is like $100 for the game. It's, the counters are bigger. That costs money. That's production costs. But you know what? Like I said, from everything that I've showed you, and as happy as I am with everything, the bigger counters, easier for me to see. I love that. I mean, I cannot read ASL counters anymore, especially tanks. It just can't happen. I mean, I know it's like, well, yeah, 3rd edition, they got the fonts bigger. I still can't read them. All right, so the simple fact that I'm more than happy to pay the price point for these games because of just the sheer weight of stuff that's in them. Did a lot of this stuff have to be in there? No. Did some of this stuff that was in here, could it have been done smaller? Yes. But it's a nicety, and I'm willing to pay for that nicety. So hopefully y'all think the same thing as well. So anyways, that is a quick look at, there's an advertisement. But quick look, Storming the Gap, World at War. Actually, not a quick look. I've been at this almost an hour. But yeah, it looks like I need to contact Dave. It's like, I'm missing a map. You got an extra number, whatever map. We will be getting to playing this. I have a couple other, well, I have one other project, two other projects. Well, they're kind of the same project. We will be seeing here shortly. But I definitely wanted to get this out. If you got the Kickstarter, if you got the full Kickstarter, I'm very, very jealous. Because you're getting literally with all the Kickstarter stuff, it's not going to fit in this box. It's just too much stuff. The counters, the extra maps, everything. There's just too much good stuff going on for it to fit in this one box. If you're on the fence because you're a little bit hesitant about the price point, like I said, I've shown you everything that they have jam-packed into this box. The price point's worth it, people. They could have charged a hell of a lot more. I'm very happy with the price point of this game and everything that's included. I am really salivating to getting this to the table and starting to play this. Hopefully I can find a scenario that doesn't require one of the map boards on this, but we'll get that figured out. We'll get that taken care of. I think that's all I got. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms in the comment section. I'll see everybody next time. See ya.